Do you know how to fume or color a meerschaum pipe other than smoking it? I see many pipes, new unsmoked, that have the mustard yellowish color. I want to fume my mirrors. The mustard yellow color you're seeing is wax. There's different shades of color of wax. That's what you're seeing. Is there a way to color the meerschaum other than smoking it? You might be able to buy a pipe machine. So I believe it was, oh geez, I can't remember. I want to say Peterson. I don't know. There was a briar pipe company, or maybe it was Graybo. Briar pipe company that sold years and years and years ago, sold broken in pipes. They had cake on them. They were broken in. They would hook a smoking machine up to it. So basically it was steady drawing air through the pipe with the tobacco lit. Now, stories have it, kings and queens that, that years and years ago had these fancy meerschaum pipes, they would let their slaves smoke them to color them up for them. But not to look at it, you can buy a smoking machine. I mean, not to smoke it. Something like that really doesn't really, I have an answer for, because it doesn't really exist. There might be something out there to do it, but far as what you're seeing in the different colors, it's the wax. The wax has different colors. There's darker wax, there's lighter wax. So that's what you're seeing in the colors. They're not self smoked, because you would see one of those pipes with the dark color wax on it, but if you look inside the bowl, it's pure white. You can tell that it hasn't been smoked. So that's what you're seeing there. Could you address how the old tobacco jars worked? Also, I have a pipe stand that has a cork lined tobacco section. The lid has one of those large clay discs. How well did these work? Or did these work? I have an idea what you're talking about. This is something going way back. They're not airtight. It's something you would buy tobacco, bulk tobacco, whatever, dump it in that tobacco jar, and you would smoke that 2-3 times a day. And by the time that tobacco dried out, it was over. Okay? You smoked it all. And you'd replenish it again. It's basically a constant jar to go into. And they used to have the glass ones with the cork lined lid, and then you would have the pipes around it. It was like a pipe stand with the jar. There was one of them too. But if it's not a mason jar sealed from the factory, you can't do it long term. And they sold probably thousands of those jars, because that's the way everybody smoked. They would go buy tobacco, dump it in there, and that's it. They didn't have cellars like we have today, where we pull the aged stuff out from either something we jarred up years before or a tin that we bought years before. Basically, they treated pipe smoking back then. It was like the cigarettes today. Oh, I'm out of smoke, so let's go to the convenience store and get a pack. That's how it was back then. So you go to the local pipe store, buy your pipe, tobacco, come home, dump it in that jar, and then whenever you wanted a pipe, you open it up, load it up, and within a month or whatever, depending on how heavy smoker you are, you'll be done, and you'll go get more, and the tobacco would stay. It's like I explained before. After I dry the tobacco out from a tin of being aged, dry it out, air it out, it's good for 6 months. I let it sit in a mason jar. After I air it out, it's sealed again, so everything comes out. The moisture comes out. It evens out what's left in there. From a week after I open it to 6 months, I make sure it's smoked down. After 6 months, it gets too dry for too long, and the tobacco starts to bite. So with those particular jars, it never lasted that long because that's all you smoked. You didn't go from this blend to that blend to this then to that. You didn't do that. You went to your local shop, say, okay, I like this blend. That's all I'm going to smoke. It's cheap. Screw it. So that's kind of what those old jars were like. Anything the cork line kind of helped keep that moisture in longer. So say it took 2 months, 3 months to smoke that jar down, it would still be fine. So, but if it sat in there a year plus, yeah, that probably, you know, over the course of a year, because it's not airtight. It's close, but it's not airtight. I heard you say that arrows do not age well. I was wondering if Autumn Evening is an exception. Your thoughts? Autumn Evening does age pretty well because it's a heavy aromatic. The review on this channel, I smoked, I believe it was 10 years old. And I could tell it was a little toned down, but it wasn't gone. Okay? The maple, well, the vanilla, all that was there. Okay? Well, very, very, very light aromatics, like the 8-State Burley that came out a few years ago. Very, very light arrows. After a few years, you're not going to taste it. Heavy arrows like McBaron Virginia Cream ages fine. So, because it's so heavy and it's still going to be there 10 years out. So, yeah, you know, it depends on the factory too. So if you're trying to age Sutliff, goopy aromatics, it's not going to work well. It's just not going to work. If you're trying to age Malta Dolce, that's just a hot mess. You know, you're not going to get what it is fresh. So if you smoke Sutliff, Lane aromatics, smoke that fresh. If you're smoking C&D, smoke it fresh. A couple years. Unless it's something like a heavy arrow like Autumn Evening, which I want to say it's one of their heaviest arrows. I had a success with Cross-Side Cricket. The Rum Punch. I had success aging that. So there is some here or there. There's some good ones here, some bad ones there. But you have to, you know, for the most part, aging arrows is a no-no. Maybe a couple years. After that, get it smoked. What is meant by the tobacco has to breathe? Does this apply to aged tobacco? Yes. Aged tobacco would really be the one you want to breathe out. Fresh tobacco, we're saying fresh is probably a year and under, 2 years and under, really don't have to. So we're talking 5 years plus. It's the old air in the can, tin, jar, whatever it's sealed in. You let that breathe. You let that take out. It's like opening a bottle of wine. You always want to let it breathe for a few seconds. Tobacco takes a little bit longer. You want that old air out and new air in to filter through the tobacco and let it do on its own. It's got to do it on its own. Don't keep jumbling it up and making a mess out of it. Just let it sit on those paper towels and it will air out, and then you let it sit again. You're going to let it sit again for a week or two, and then it's going to be gold. It's going to be gold. Just make sure it's smoked up within 6 months. That's the most optimal way I've found to get the most repeatability of the same flavor over and over and over from the tobacco. You got to have consistency. You don't have consistency, you're all over the place.